never imagined that the quiet secret I kept on my wedding day would one day become the only thing that protected me. People often say marriage changes everything. For me, it didn't change things, it revealed things. It showed me who loved me, who pretended to love me, and who only loved what they thought they could take from me. And it all began with one truth I chose to keep to myself. The apartment we moved into was mine, not my husband's, not his mother's. I just never told them. Not on the engagement day. Not during the wedding. Not when his mother proudly walked through the living room saying, "Oh, this will be my son's home now." Well, I stayed quiet, smiled, and I let them believe whatever made them comfortable. I didn't know then that this silence, this decision to say nothing, would save my sanity, my dignity, and maybe even my future. But let me start from the beginning. From the day everything seemed perfect, before it all slowly started to crack. When I first met Daniel, I thought he was different. Soft-spoken, charming, warm. At least on the surface. He liked that I had a calm life, a stable job, and my own routine. What I didn't know was that he also liked how predictable I was. Because predictable people are easy to control. But you don't see those red flags in the beginning. Love has a way of painting everything with warm colors. Our relationship moved fast. Maybe too fast. Within a year we were talking about marriage. His mother, Lydia, was thrilled. At least she pretended to be. She hugged me often, squeezed my hands, and called me my future daughter-in-law. But sometimes when she thought I wasn't looking, I caught a flicker in her eyes. Something calculating, something cold. Her compliments always had a second layer. "You're such a nice girl. Daniel deserves stability. You cook so well. My son always dreamed of a wife who serves him with love. You work hard. Good, you can help the household." That last one should have warned me. But I ignored it. Sometimes we ignore warnings because we're afraid of what they mean. Long before I met Daniel, I bought a small apartment. Nothing fancy. 2 rooms, a tiny balcony, and a kitchen that always smelled like morning sun. It was my safe space. My independence. The proof that I could build a life on my own. When Daniel proposed, he said, "We'll move into your place temporarily. Just for a few months." Temporarily. But 2 weeks before the wedding, I overheard him talking to his mother on the phone. "Yeah, Mom. We'll live in my apartment after the wedding. It's practically mine anyway." She didn't buy it alone. No woman does. Froze. I didn't confront him. Not then. Not yet. But that moment planted a thought. If they already think it belongs to them, what will they do after the wedding? That's when I decided. I will say nothing. Not a word about ownership. No papers shown. No explanations. Let them believe whatever they want. Later I would understand why this silence was necessary. On the day of our wedding, everyone said I looked radiant. But what they didn't know was that I wore 2 things. A bridal dress. And fear. Daniel seemed distracted. Colder. Almost impatient. Right after the ceremony, he whispered, "Hurry up, smile more. My relatives think you look too serious." Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "You look beautiful." Just, "Perform better." Another warning. Another sign I ignored. During the reception, his mother clung to me like a shadow. "You're lucky, you know," she said, tightening her grip on my arm. "Daniel is the best man you could ever get." I smiled politely. But in my heart, I wondered why she felt the need to repeat it. People only repeat what they're afraid isn't true. 2 days after the wedding, we moved into my apartment. The first thing Lydia said when she stepped inside was, "We'll redecorate everything. This isn't Daniel's style. And from now on, come to me before making decisions for the household." Blinked. "Household decisions." I repeated. "This is my." Before I finished the sentence, Daniel squeezed my hand hard and whispered, "Don't start. Not today." I swallowed my words. And they took my silence as surrender. Within a week things changed. Lydia started coming over uninvited. Daniel started making decisions without asking me. Suddenly, our home became his home. I knew something was wrong, but I was about to discover how deep their intentions really went. One night, Daniel thought I was asleep, but his voice in the living room woke me. He was on the phone with his mother. "Relax, Mom," he whispered. "She still thinks we're temporary here. I'll convince her to put my name on the papers soon. It's only a matter of time." My heart stopped. They weren't just planning to take control of the home. They wanted ownership, my independence, my life, and they believed they already had the right to it. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I simply stared at the ceiling and whispered to myself, "They don't know the apartment is in my name alone. They don't know I never told them. And they don't know I never will." But this was only the beginning. Soon their plans would grow darker. And my silence, the silence they mistook for weakness, would become the only weapon I needed. After that night I watched them more carefully. Every word, every glance, every whispered phone call between Daniel and his mother. They weren't subtle anymore. They didn't need to be, because they believed I was powerless inside my own home. Lydia visited almost every day. She rearranged the drawers, replaced my dishes with hers, moved my plants out to the balcony because they cluttered the place, hung new curtains without asking, ugly ones that darkened the room. Daniel said nothing. If anything, he encouraged it. One afternoon I came home from work and found them sitting at the kitchen table together, papers spread out. When I walked in, they both went silent. Lydia gave a tight smile. "Sweetheart, we were just discussing something important." Then she held Daniel's hand. "About the future of our home." Home. I knew what that meant. Daniel straightened up and cleared his throat. "We're married now," he said. "So it's only logical that I become a co-owner. Legal stuff, paperwork, signatures. Just routine." Routine. A man trying to claim a home he never bought, never paid for, never cared for? But I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said, "We'll see." Daniel hated those two words. Because "we'll see" meant he didn't have control yet. After that conversation, everything intensified. Daniel started guilt-tripping me. "You don't trust me. Why are you so selfish? Why can't you support me like a real wife? Do you think I'm trying to take something from you?" Yes, I thought so. But I couldn't say it out loud. Because if I did, he would explode. And the moment a person explodes, they reveal everything. Instead, I watched. And waited. Lydia also joined the emotional campaign. "One day, when you have children, they'll need a stable home. You don't want your husband insecure, right? Daniel deserves respect. You must show him trust." Trust, respect, obedience. Everything they demanded flowed in one direction. Toward their benefit. It became clear. They didn't love me. They loved what they thought I owned. One evening, Daniel invited his relatives for dinner without asking me. 4 people showed up. All sat in the living room like they owned the place. Lydia served food from my kitchen. Daniel walked around like a tour guide, showing every room. And then it happened. His aunt pointed at a wall and said, "This would be a perfect place for a big family portrait." Lydia smiled proudly. "Yes, we'll redesign the whole living room after they put Daniel's name on the deed." A deed. My deed. In front of everyone, Daniel turned toward me and said, "Right, honey. It's time we make the papers official." Everyone stared, waiting for me to say yes, expecting compliance. I looked at Daniel, then at his mother, then at their excited faces. And I simply said, "No." The room fell silent. You could hear a spoon drop. Daniel's jaw tightened. Lydia blinked rapidly. His aunt frowned. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. I didn't defend myself. I simply repeated, "No." And then I left the room. It was the first time I said no to them so clearly. And it was the moment they realized the apartment might not be as accessible as they believed. That night, after the guests left, Daniel came into the bedroom. He didn't shout. He didn't hit anything. But sometimes silence is more dangerous than anger. He sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, "Why are you making this so hard? Just sign the papers. You're my wife. Your property is my property." Froze. I had heard that sentence before. From the worst people. I asked calmly, "Why does this matter so much to you?" He didn't blink. He didn't hesitate. "Because I deserve it." Deserve it. The apartment I bought alone. The place I built long before I met him. My safe space. I stared at him. And for the first time I didn't see a husband. I saw someone who believed entitlement was the same as love. Someone who believed marriage gave him ownership over me. That night, I slept facing the other direction. A week later, I accidentally discovered something that chilled me. I was cleaning the bedroom closet when I found a folder hidden behind Daniel's suits. Inside it, printed form, a pre-filled co-ownership registration document. His name, the address of my apartment, everything typed in. The only empty space was the line for my signature. My hands trembled. He had prepared it without telling me, without asking me, without even discussing it like an equal partner. He intended to corner me, to pressure me, to manipulate me until I said yes. That's when something inside me broke. Not fear, not sadness, something stronger. Clarity. One afternoon, Lydia came over unexpectedly, but this time she wasn't alone. She brought her sister and cousin. 3 women sitting in my living room, waiting like a committee. Daniel stood behind them, arms crossed. I walked in and Lydia began immediately. "We're here to help you make the right decision." The right decision? Yes. To give Daniel the security he deserves, her sister added. "Marriage is about sharing," the cousin said. Daniel nodded proudly. "This is normal," he insisted. "Everyone does this. Just sign the papers." I felt my heart racing. Not from fear but from disbelief. They had actually staged an intervention. For my apartment, my property, my life. I took a deep breath. And for the first time I didn't stay silent. I didn't smile politely. I didn't pretend. I simply said, "No." And stop asking. Daniel's eyes went dark. Lydia gasped. "Are you seriously refusing?" she demanded. "Yes," I said. With my whole chest. "Why?" Daniel shouted. I looked him straight in the eyes. "Because the apartment is mine." Silence. Then shock. Then anger. But I wasn't done. "And I never told you. Because you never deserved to know." That moment changed everything. Their masks slipped. Their smiles vanished. And their real battle began. But what they didn't know was that I had already decided. If they wanted a war, I would end it on my terms. After that confrontation, the atmosphere in the apartment changed instantly. Daniel stopped pretending. The softness, the politeness, the warmth, all gone. What remained was a cold man who believed I had betrayed him by protecting what was mine. But something else changed too. Me. For months I survived in silence. I planned in silence. And I finally understood something. Some people don't hear your words. But they feel your actions. So I took action. Quietly. Smartly. Step by step. Without warning Daniel or his mother. Because I already knew. If I tried to leave openly, they would make it difficult. Emotionally. Financially. Legally. So instead of responding to their pressure with anger, I responded with preparation. And that's how my revenge began. Daniel had habits. Predictable ones. He always slept late on weekends. He always kept his phone face down. He always locked his laptop when I entered the room. He always checked our mailbox before I did. At first I thought it was normal. But now I wondered. What else was he hiding? One night, after he fell asleep, I quietly walked into the living room. His laptop was still warm. He must have closed it seconds before I came out of the bathroom. For a moment, I considered trying to open it. But I stopped. I didn't need his laptop. People reveal more in what they say than what they write. I listened carefully during the week. Daniel had phone calls with his mother more frequently, sometimes twice a day. Every call ended the same way. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll get her to do it." Get me to do what? Sign. Give up. Surrender. They still believed I was the weak one. They had no idea I had already begun planning my exit. Remember the co-ownership document I found? That paper Daniel had prepared behind my back. Kept it. Not in the closet. Not in a drawer. I hid it somewhere he would never check. Inside an empty flour bag in the kitchen cabinet. And then I made a decision. If Daniel tried to force me into signing anything, I would not only refuse, I would expose how far he'd already gone. But I needed a stronger foundation. Something protective. So I went to a lawyer. Quiet office. A calm woman in her 40s. Soft voice, sharp mind. I explained the situation without anger. Just facts. She leaned back and said, "Good thing the apartment is legally yours alone. But be careful. If you stay with him, he may try more aggressive tactics later. The best way to protect yourself is to separate property and prepare for the possibility of leaving." Leaving, I repeated. The word felt heavy, but also freeing. She helped me draft something important. A written declaration, notarized, stating that the apartment was bought and owned solely by me before marriage. This document meant no one could claim it. No one could take it. No one could force me to add a co-owner. This was the brick wall their plans would crash against. When I came home that night, Daniel tried a new tactic. He acted nice, made dinner, played soft music, smiled, even held my hand. "Baby," he said gently. "I think we started off wrong with the paperwork. Let's talk again." Calmly. From the man who staged an intervention in my living room. But I didn't react. I let him speak. "I want us to have a solid future," he continued. "Everything should be shared. Equal. Don't you want that? Equal." When they were trying to take everything from me, still I nodded slowly. Not in agreement, but to make him feel safe. Because when people feel safe, they let their guard down. And when they let their guard down, you finally see the truth. 2 days later, something unexpected happened. I found a letter in the mailbox addressed to Daniel. I normally never opened his mail. But this letter, this one had a government seal. My hand shook. Was it about the apartment? Did they try something behind my back again? I sat on the couch and stared at the envelope. Open it. Or wait. My heart raced. But not because I wanted to invade his privacy. Because I needed to know if I was in danger. Finally, I opened it. Inside was a bank statement. A loan application. Daniel had applied for a loan, using my apartment as future shared collateral. My blood went cold. He had no legal right. But that didn't stop him from trying. He was planning something bigger. Something bolder. Something that required money. Now it wasn't just about ownership. It was about control. Financial dependency. Future leverage. He wanted to tie me down permanently. I felt my breath shake. But only for a moment. 'Cause now I had proof. Proof of his intentions. Proof of their plans. Proof of the danger. And I knew. It was time to end this. That evening I placed the letter on the dining table. When Daniel walked in and saw it, his face drained of color. "Where did you get that?" he snapped. "The mailbox," I said calmly. "Why did you apply for a loan using my apartment as collateral?" "It's not just yours," he shouted. "We're married. Everything is shared." I picked up the letter and held it toward him. "It's shared when both people agree," I said softly. "You never asked me. You never discussed anything. You just decided." His breathing grew heavy. "You're being dramatic," he muttered. "You're my wife. You're supposed to trust me." Trust. The word felt bitter. "You hid documents. You staged interventions. You tried to pressure me legally. You planned with your mother behind my back. You applied for loans using something that belongs only to me, I said. Then I placed my hand over my chest. And you call that trust? He didn't answer. Because he couldn't. Daniel slammed his fist on the table. Not at me but near me. Just enough to intimidate. Just enough to show dominance. Just enough to warn me. Stop making this so difficult, he hissed. You will sign the papers eventually. Whether you like it or not. That was it. The moment I stopped seeing him as my husband. The moment I stopped hoping for love. Or change. Or miracles. The moment I realized. I needed to protect myself. From the person I married. I stepped back. Quiet. Completely in control. Daniel, I whispered. I think it's time you understood something. He looked confused. I walked to the bedroom, reached into the flower bag, and returned with the hidden document. His co-ownership papers. When he saw it, his eyes widened. You were planning this all along, I said. Not me. You. He froze. Then I took out the notarized property declaration from my purse and placed it beside his document. 2 papers. Side by side. His secret. And my truth. He stared. Silent. Defeated. And I added. You wanted a war over the apartment. Fine. But you forgot one thing. What? He whispered. I leaned forward. It's not your battlefield. Daniel didn't speak for almost a full minute. He just stared at the 2 documents on the table. His hidden co-ownership paper. My notarized declaration of ownership. For a moment the room felt too quiet. Too still. Then he whispered. You planned this. No, I said softly. I prepared for this. There's a difference. His jaw tightened. You think you've won. I shook my head slowly. This isn't about winning. It's about protecting myself from you. That sentence hit him like a slap. He stepped back almost offended. Almost shocked that he could ever be seen as a threat. But he didn't deny anything. Not one accusation. Not one action. Not one plan I confronted him with. Silence is an admission when the truth is too big to argue with. The next morning, Lydia barged into the apartment without knocking. As always, her eyes were full of fury. What did you do to my son? She demanded. He says you insulted him. That you humiliated him. That you're refusing to act like a wife. Daniel stood behind her, arms crossed, letting her speak for him, as always. I didn't shout. I didn't defend myself. I simply walked to the table, picked up both documents, and handed them to her. Read. Her eyes moved quickly. First confusion. Then disbelief. Then anger. You tricked him, she hissed. No, I replied calmly. He tried to take something that was never his. I just stopped him. Lydia slammed the papers onto the table. You stupid girl, she snapped. A marriage is about merging lives. A wife gives everything to her husband. I took a deep breath. And what does a husband give? Yes. She froze. Because she had no answer. Not one that made sense. Not one that wasn't about control. Not one rooted in respect. Daniel spoke at last. Mom, let's go. She's not signing anything. The mother who always had too much to say. Said nothing. She grabbed her purse and stormed out. Daniel followed. And for the first time since the wedding, I felt the apartment breathe again. For the next week, Daniel barely spoke to me. No good mornings. No good nights. Just silence filled with resentment. He wasn't angry that the apartment wasn't his. He was angry that he couldn't control me. That I didn't break. That I didn't surrender. That I didn't become the version of a wife he wanted. But his silence helped me. Gave me time. Time to think. Time to plan. Time to prepare my departure without drama. I packed little by little. Not bags. Not boxes. Just essentials. Passports. Personal documents. Savings. Clothes. Everything else in the apartment already belonged to me. And everything emotional between us had already died long ago. One night, Daniel walked into the bedroom and closed the door behind him. He spoke without looking at me. "If you're not signing the papers," he said coldly, "then you need to start paying rent." Rent. For my own apartment. I almost laughed, but instead I exhaled. "So that's who you really are," I whispered. He turned angry. "You think you're better than me because you own this place?" "No," I said softly. "I think I'm safer without you in it." For a moment he stared at me, confused, shaken, maybe even a little afraid. And I realized something. He didn't expect me to leave. He expected me to bend, to break, to give in. But leaving was the only thing left to do. On a quiet Sunday morning I told him, "I'm leaving. Not for a few days. Not for a break. For good." He blinked. "You're divorcing me, because of an apartment." I shook my head gently. "No. I'm divorcing you because of what this apartment made me see." He frowned. "What's that?" And I answered, "That you never wanted a wife. You wanted a resource." He stepped forward, desperate now. "Wait, let's talk." But I stepped back. "I tried talking. You tried taking." Then I picked up my bags. I walked to the door, opened it, and for a moment, he looked small, not powerful, not controlling, just a man who lost the one thing he couldn't manipulate. Me. I walked out. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. I didn't doubt myself. Freedom doesn't always feel loud. Sometimes it feels like the quiet click of a door behind you. I moved into a small rented place first. Not forever, just until the court reviewed everything. The divorce process was straightforward. No shared assets, no shared accounts, no children, no debts, and thanks to my lawyer, Daniel couldn't even attempt to claim a right to the apartment. He tried once. His lawyer tried to argue emotional contribution. But my documents were solid. My timeline clear. My ownership undeniable. The judge looked at Daniel and asked, "Do you have any legal or financial proof of contribution?" He didn't. Of course he didn't. Case closed. When the divorce papers were signed, I didn't feel happiness. I felt something better. Clarity. 3 months later, I returned to my apartment. My home. The place that once felt invaded, now felt like mine again. I opened the windows, let the sunlight in, placed fresh flowers on the table. And I exhaled deeply. I survived. I protected what was mine. Chose myself. If I had confronted Daniel earlier, maybe things would have escalated. If I had told him the truth at the beginning, maybe he and his mother would have pushed harder. If I had trusted blindly, maybe I would have lost everything. My silence, the silence they mocked, the silence they called stubborn, was the only thing that saved me. Looking back now, I understand something important. People don't change when you marry them. You just finally see who they've always been. Daniel wasn't greedy because of the apartment. The apartment just revealed the greed he already had. Lydia wasn't controlling because of the deed. The deed simply exposed the control she always wanted. But I wasn't weak because I stayed quiet. I was wise, strategic, strong enough to protect myself, even when the people closest to me turned against me. And the biggest lesson of all, sometimes the secret you keep is the only shield you have. In a world full of people who want to take what you built. My silence didn't break me, saved me. And walking away didn't make me lose a marriage. It made me reclaim my life.